Good evening. There's probably no proper way to introduce our guest tonight because you're about to see a familiar face, one that is known to Muslims and non-Muslims as well, particularly the Christians. It is our brother Sheikh Ahmed Deedat. Brother Ahmed Deedat has been a moving vehicle all around the world. He's been debating Christians, particularly Christian
and Jews.
Priests.
And Jews.
And Jews as well, as he already injected. And we will be discovering why is he stressing this. And some people do think that he's aggressive in the way he's doing it. But we'll see tonight if that is the case. Welcome, Brother and Sheikh Ahmed Deedat, to the Saudi television.
Thank you very much.
Jazakallah. Yes, maybe we need to have a glimpse of your background.
Yes, yeah.
Before we get into the main subject of tonight.
Yes.
So please.
Well, you see, people ask me, how did I come about to becoming a specialist in the field of comparative religion? Yes. Whether I went out of my way, attended a university? No. It was more by accident that I have become what I am, but I don't really believe in accidents. To me, these are all the workings of Almighty. He has chosen for everybody a goal, as he says in the Holy Quran, وَلِكُلٍّ وِجْهَةٌ هُوَ مُوَلِّهَا. Said everyone has a goal, a destination towards which he is being driven. فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ, so Allah says, compete with one another in good works. أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يَأْتِ بِكُمُ اللَّهُ جَمِيعًا. And Allah will bring you all together wheresoever ye may be. So it was force of circumstances. After leaving school, I was working in a country shop, some 25 miles outside the city of Durban.
In South Africa.
In South Africa. And across the valley from the shop, there was a university where they were training Christian missionaries. And these missionaries, they came to do their shopping in the shop in which I worked. And when they came, whatever they had learned, they were out to practice. And the first customers, we were the first customers of theirs in that field. So they would pose problems to us, questions to us. He says, you know, your Prophet Muhammad had so many wives. Wallah, I didn't know anything about that. See, when these things are being thrown at me, I was about 16, 17-year-old then.
Yes.
I know nothing about that. How many wives the Prophet had, I knew nothing. Then he says, your Prophet, he spread his religion at the point of the sword, which is the commonest charge against Islam. Islam is spread at the point of the sword. Okay. And again, he says, you know, your Prophet, he copied his book, the Quran, from the Jews and the Christians. Now, all these things I knew nothing about. The only thing I knew about Islam, as well as the other workers, young men who had just left school, cheap labor, the only thing we knew about Islam was that we are Muslims. What made us Muslims? Well, we read the kalima, the shahada. And if I met you those days, and if I asked you where you come from, you tell me where you come from, I said, are you Muslim? You said, yes. I said, read the shahada.
What and is shahada is the bearing
we said, la ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. Now, if you can say that, you are a Muslim. You pass. But what that meant, I didn't know. Nobody knew. This was like a magic formula. If you can say it, utter it, you are a Muslim. If you can't utter, you are not a Muslim. So that was the extent of my knowledge. But now these people are posing problems to me, and I can't take it. Right. So I'm thinking of leaving the job and running away. But jobs are very difficult to find those days. And fight back, but you can't fight back without knowledge. So I'm in a dilemma. But Allah Bari Ta'ala is Musabbibul Asbab. He creates opportunities. I had a hunger for reading. And one Sunday, I'm going into my boss's warehouse and rummaging through a pile of old newspapers, looking for something better than a newspaper to read, like a magazine. So I take some newspapers, put them one side, find a new magazine, put it on the other side for later reading, and so on. While I'm going through this process, I come across a worm-eaten book full of mildew.
A what?
Worm-eaten.
Worm-eaten.
Worm, it means holes inside. You know.
I see.
The worms had eaten it.
Right.
You see? And when I pick it up, it's full of mildew. So I start to sneeze. But I'm attracted by the title. It read in Latin script, Izharul Haq. I-Z-H-A-R-U-L-H-A-K.
Which meant?
No, at that time I didn't know Izharul Haq. It sounds to me like Muslim. but it's written in Western letters.
I see.
It's not written in Arabic script. So what is Izharul Haq? I'm repeating though, Izharul Haq. What is Izharul Haq? At the bottom in smaller types is written in English, the truth revealed. So I said, right, maybe Izharul Haq means the truth revealed. And I started opening the book and reading. This was by Sheikh Abdullah Sindhi. He was an Arab gentleman who had written this book in Arabic, which was later translated into English, into Gujarati, into Urdu, to help the people of India to meet the Christian challenge. Because you see, when the British people conquered India, they realized that at any time anybody will give them trouble, it will be the Muslims. So if they can convert these people and teach them to turn the other cheek, as Jesus Christ had taught, that if he who strikes you on the right cheek, give him the other, he said the problem is solved. You can rule India for 1,000 years. So they started pouring in the missionaries like frogs in the rainy season. And this is about the debates that took place between the Christians and the Muslims. So it made interesting reading. So whatever I read now, I now learned those verses, and when these students came along, these theological students, these missionaries,
you started debating.
I asked them, I said, look, where do you go? On Sunday after church, where do you go? He said, no, I'm at home. I said, look, where do you live? So he gives me direction, because there are no streets in the countryside.
Yes.
So I said, right, I'll see you at 11 on Sunday. So I go along and have discussions. So this became my hobby. And later on, the hobby became my full-time job.
I see.
That's how I have become what I am.
All right, that's interesting. Let's get to the point where you started to, I understand that you're almost learning Bible by heart.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
Was this the reason, the outcome of
that book? You see, in that book now the quotations were given. So I went and bought a sixpenny, that's 5 cents, second-hand New Testament.
Yes.
And whatever I read here, I marked it. That Matthew chapter so-and-so, verse so-and-so, contradicts Mark chapter so-and-so, verse so-and-so. This is here Luke, this contradicts so-and-so. So now, these very things that I read, I memorize them, and I go along and talk about it. So talking, I talk myself into this position.
What has been the outcome of all these discussions and debates with Christians? What have you learned from this? Is this a way that you can introduce Islam into these people, and are some of them convinced?
We have, in our small society that we have in South Africa, we have converted more than 7,000 people so far. Over a long period, but about 7,000 people. 7,000 people we have converted from Hinduism, from Christianity, and an occasional Jew, we have converted them, Hindus, Christians, and Jews to Islam. But now, you see, this method, I didn't know that this was a Quranic method. Whatever I am doing is actually Quranic. But somehow we Muslims have neglected that field. You see, in the Holy Quran, Allah Bari Ta'ala tells us, وَقَالُوا, and they say, لَن يَدْخُلَ الْجَنَّةَ إِلَّا مَنْ كَانَ هُدًى أَوْ نَصَارَى, that you Muslims will never enter Jannah. There is no heaven for you. There is no salvation for you unless you become a Jew or unless you become a Christian. In response to that, Allah says, Tilka amaniyuhum. This is their wishful thinking, vain desires, hallucination. Don't be frightened. Qul, tell them, hatu burhanakum. Produce your proof. In kuntum sadiqeen, if you are speaking the truth, show us your certificate that entitles you to heaven and destines us to hell. Can we please have a look at your certificate? Now the Muslim, I'm studying them, nobody is asking for his certificate. You see, it is a natural thing to do. If you make a claim and if I have any doubt, I ask you for your proof.
Right.
But the Muslim is not asking for his proof. So somehow naturally, because Islam is a natural religion, naturally I'm asking for proof. And he produces it in his book, the Bible. So I deal with it. And which when I deal with it, he goes berserk because he's got no way out. For example, yes. You see, the Christians say that Jesus is God. But before that, when I deliver lectures on these topics, I tell them, I said, look, there is not a single verse anywhere in the Christian Bible, an encyclopedia, where Jesus says, I'm God, or where he says, worship me. Nowhere.